we all get lost in the doing as opposed to the being. And we need to be in our being to be able to serve others in a way. And serving others is our family as well, not just our business. Welcome, everybody, to Sally Speaks Mindset podcast, where we have guest experts through the conversations that we have. And the purpose of our show is to really highlight the gifts and talents of the guests and how they serve through their business. Because service is the most important element, I believe, in what we bring forward in our businesses. And the podcast is really designed to help you inspire, educate, and motivate you to have the success that you desire within your life and within your business. And my guests are always leaders in their field, and they all have incredible stories and journeys to share. And Michal is no different. So welcome, Michal McCracken. She is an amazing woman that really helps reduce that busyness for the women that she serves, so they feel expansive, spacious, and unbound by their time constraints. And I think all of us as women can relate to that, absolutely. She helps her clients to un-complicate, decrapify, I love that, and unbusy their mind and schedule so that they create the lifestyle and time freedom that they desire. And isn't that what every woman is craving today? And especially today, it's just so busy for all of us as moms, as spouses, as business people. And as you being an entrepreneur, it certainly is something that I know you're very passionate about because you really do want to serve people in a way that's impactful. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So today we're going to talk about simplifying to thrive. And so can you share some ideas about how did you actually get into this business? What made you move forward to start this business that you currently have?
Yeah. Well, I used to have a business and I used to run it through blood, sweat, tears, grit, and determination and hard work and hustle. And I got burned out. And so I sold the business, which was a success, but it didn't feel like a success because I was exhausted.
Yeah.
So as I've been building this new business, I've been learning new ways of approaching it so that I don't end up with another business that I just feel completely exhausted by. And so that's what I coach my clients through now too.
It's awesome. And I think so many people can relate to that. I know, business owners as well as people in the corporate world or having their jobs can really feel that burnout and that stress of all of the things that we have to do to become what we're expected to become, right? And so when I look at that, I mean, I was even at the stage at the end of my career before I left to become an entrepreneur, where I was finding that I was still pushing so hard for the company that I got because of. And, I was balancing my home life. I was looking after our son. My husband was always away out on business, so he was gone for months at a time. And I was doing all the things. But there wasn't talk about having that balance. Or I didn't hold it, right? And so how did people, when they show up for you, what are they showing up with? What is the challenges that they're showing up with? And maybe you can give us some practical steps for realigning them with the business vision that you have and allowing them to stay true to their original purpose of life, which is to have a beautiful life.
Yeah. Well, when we go into business, none of us go into business with the idea that we want to work really hard. We're going to treat ourselves like crap. We're going to have no boundaries and we're just going to make a lot of money and be really unhappy, right? Like nobody starts a business for those reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And yet that's what we usually do. We have these ideas of freedom and joy and love, and then we very quickly create these really busy jobs for ourselves. And as an entrepreneur, especially in the early stages, you're wearing all the hats. So not only are you may be a mum, you may be a spouse, as you said earlier, but you're also in sales and marketing and cleaning the toilets and whatever else you have to do as you're building a business. So what I really get my clients to do is remember what they wanted to create. Like that's the first step, because we get so busy and we get so bogged down with all the things that we need to do, but also all the things that we should be doing or we were told to do or we just grew up assuming, with all that conditioning, that those are the things that we should be doing and these are the ways that we should be doing them. So I help my ladies figure out, like, what are we actually playing for? What are we doing? And then realign all the activities that they're doing. So across their home lives and their business lives, where are the things that they really shine? Why did they start this business? And I always really like to bring it back home and say something like, if you only had 2 hours a day to build this business, what are the most high impact things that you could be doing?
Yeah.
That really clears so much crap off the calendar. And it makes you way more focused.
That's interesting, because I think even just the question of writing down all the things you do in a day for a woman can be really overwhelming as far as what they actually do. I mean, really think about it. From the time they look up to the time they go to bed, all of the things that they do, or some might feel like they're expected to do, but it's that choice. And so I love how you get them to actually make that list first, because that has got to be a big eye opener for so many people, especially if they have an entrepreneurial business, because like you said, we all are wearing so many different hats when we're starting out in the business, as well as trying to juggle everything else that we have going. And we all have, a lot of people have this dream or see these other people out there that are showing all this financial success. And look at me, and it looks like they've had this beautiful life. But I'm pretty sure they started out the same way that the rest of us did, with that initial, push, that struggle, that I've got to wear all the hats and things along that type of line. So as you're working with your clients and they get to that point where they're like, 2 hours, what are you talking about? Just 2 hours to run my business? What are some of the things that you're able to support them with as far as figuring out how to manage that 2 hours and find that time within their calendar?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be 2 hours, but it's kind of that shock factor why I use the 2-hour mark. I mean, you might have 5 hours. I mean, I build my business during school time and I take all the school holidays off. So that automatically gives me about 5 hours a day and only 38 weeks of the year. So that is not much time. And so even if you just give yourself the permission to go a little bit slower and be a bit more realistic with what your goals and intentions are, that's a help. Because I know I was guilty of that. I was like, why am I always so far behind? I feel like I'm failing, blah, blah, blah. But I actually just really didn't have that much time to get things done. And so it doesn't have to be 2 hours. But if you're really focused on the things that only you can do and you're outsourcing or automating or delegating the stuff that really is not your best use of your time and energy, then you can really just be focused and concentrate on what has to be done, the most important stuff. And then there's also like a deconditioning piece as well, which is challenging. And I still find myself going through that as well. It's like, well, now I've got all this time, but there's still all that conditioning that my worthiness is tied to my productivity. So even just being able to schedule in time to do nothing, which is so hard for most of us, right? So hard.
Well, hard.
But even if nothing, like, it doesn't have to be nothing, because I would really struggle to do nothing, but you could use that time for meditation or reading a novel or listening to music or taking the dog for a walk or just taking yourself for a walk, whatever it is, but scheduling it in and making it non-negotiable is really important, because otherwise we're just going to fill that time that we've clawed back. We're just going to fill it with more stuff. We're going to start cleaning out the wardrobe or mopping the floors, or we're going to do something with it.
Well, the laundry just being, I gotta go get it done. Right?
And that's the other thing, right? Like being able to recognize what is actually important and what's important right now, because we get into this point where we're so frazzled that everything feels like it's equally important and everything feels like it needs to be done immediately. So taking that time to be still and calm really allows you to step back and go, oh, the washing actually doesn't need to be folded right now,
Yeah, I think must be difficult for people when you're working with them, because I know from time to time too, I'm still like, oh, yeah, I forgot, I got to go do this, I got to do that. And it's easy to be able to, I think it's how the women's brain works, is for us to be so distracted that we automatically think of all the things that are on that list and we expect that we're going to jump to it right away. So I love the fact that you're talking about taking that stillness and that time for yourself to do something that really motivates you or makes you feel at peace and gives you that time to yourself. I did that exact same thing last night. My husband works evenings, and so I was just working and working and working because when he's gone, I can't. But right when he's at work, I can work as long as I want. But I was just feeling I was starting to get really heavy energy. I just said, you know what? I'm just going to go for a walk. So I took the time for myself, went for that walk, and it was so refreshing to come back and just clear my mind, clear everything, get some physical activity, and just enjoy nature as I'm out walking. And that's something that so many of us take for granted if we don't do it in our day to day.
Yeah. We don't factor it in. And yet that is where, like, when you take those walks or you look at all the leaves on the tree or you watch the seagulls out the window, whatever it is, that's where, when you have those beautiful moments of stillness and rest, that's where your best ideas come from. And so I love that you said that, Sally, because if you can really get into your body and feel that energy, like if you were sitting in front of your computer and you were just feeling heavy and resentful and nothing, you can't piece any of your ideas together and nothing is flowing, we do not need to push through that crap anymore, right? That's what we've done in the past. We push through, but we really, really don't. And the best use of our energy is to get up and change our state. And that might be listening to your favorite song. It might be making a cup of tea. For me, it often involves chocolate. I love chocolate.
Nothing wrong with it.
Exactly. And it's just about like taking that moment to go, oh, actually, maybe I don't need to be pushing this hard. In fact, pushing this hard is working against me right now.
And it is working against you. So explain a little bit more why that feels like it's working against you, because a lot of people are in that push and believe that that's something they have to do. So how did they start to reframe their mindset to be able to understand that that's a possibility?
Yeah. Well, I would just start back with the schedule again. I'm like, at which points in the day are you going to allow yourself to rest? Some people really like using the Pomodoro technique. I personally don't like it for myself, but I understand why other people like it. But even if you've got, start with 3 minutes if that's all you think you can fit in. 3 minutes where I'm not in front of my computer. I do not have my phone on. Well, looking at your phone is not downtime. That's still stimulating your brain. You really need to focus on, even if it's looking out the window or really enjoying your cup of tea, whatever it is, just give yourself those little pockets throughout the day to give your nervous system a chance to calm down. Breath work is really great as well. And it's free, right? All you have to do is breathe. And there's heaps of YouTube videos for free. Like there's no reason why you can't easily go and find a 5-minute breath work exercise that you can just follow along with. And the other thing I really like is the start of the day. So I don't have a really elaborate morning routine. I mean, I've got kids, I've got a dog who gets walked. Like, I'm not going to, and I like to sleep. So I'm not going to get up early and do like this full on practice. But what I do before I get out of bed, I usually still wake up with this kind of jolt of adrenaline. And so I stay in bed until I'm calm and I really just connect in and I feel grateful I love my sheets and I've got a lovely pillow. And then I get up because I'm in such a better state of mind than jumping out of bed and immediately turning on my computer or my phone.
Checking your phone, what's on my calendar today.
Yeah.
And an email. It's so easy to do those types of things because we typically keep our phones right by our bedside.
Yeah. And email it's like the killer of a good vibe, right? Like, do not check your email first thing in the morning. It can wait.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think, the gratitude that you're offering first thing in the morning sets that energy for your day. So you're lying in bed being thankful and grateful for your sheets and your pillow and your comfort that you have. That's how you want to start your day. And most people have an alarm go off and they jump, right? I've taught myself just to wake up and not to use an alarm. And it's so much easier and smoother in getting your day started because now you're waking up with an energy that's just peaceful as opposed to that jolt. And I know my spouse oftentimes, when he has to get up for a certain thing, he'll have that. And to me, it just seems like such a jolt to your energy to wake up to a big blurting noise. And so it just changed those little habits that you have. It makes such a huge difference.
Yeah. And you could use the alarm on your phone. Like if I do have an early morning meeting, I'll use the alarm on my phone, but it's quiet and it's musical. So it's not like that.
Here's everybody.
Yeah. It's just not a great way to wake up. And then also like notice, like if you wake up a little bit earlier, but you wake up naturally, that's probably a really good time to get up. Going, oh, I've still got half an hour to sleep. And then you go back into your sleep cycle and you wake up in a really ghastly part of your sleep cycle and feel awful all day. So really learning how to feel what your body feels like when it's ready to get up or ready to rest.
Good advice. So now, what are some of the effective strategies that you use or suggest for your clients for delegating or automating or even deleting tasks to create more space for in their schedule and in their life?
Yeah. Well, I'm a huge fan of decluttering. So decluttering space, decluttering schedule, decluttering all that junk in our minds. So the first thing we do is do like an organizational chart of all those things that we talked about before, like all of those things that we're across the household admin, all the different departments within our business. Even if we're solopreneurs, right? We still have all of those departments. Kids' activities that we have to remember to sign them up for and buy the uniform for and all of that stuff, right? Doing the cleaning, doing the shopping, all of those things that we actually have to stay on top of in order to run our households and run our business. So we figure out what are we doing, and then we figure out like, do we really need to do all of those things? Like how much of that stuff, nobody's going to die if it doesn't get done. Like, can we delete? So we delete first, we declutter first. Then of the things that are still on there, what do you want to be doing? What's the best use of your time, the most high impact activities? Those are the things that we get to keep. And then everything else could be delegated. So there's so much stuff that could be delegated. And I'm not denying that there is work involved in delegating, right? You've got to create a standard operating procedure. That would be just as simple as recording your screen as you're doing something so that the person coming after you, your VA or whatever, whoever you've got, can just pick it up and run with it. I had a house cleaner for years until I started working at home again. And then I just didn't need more because I actually really enjoy cleaning. But I had an entire, it was just one page, but it was like every single room, what I am expecting her to do in that room. Because I didn't want to get home and go, oh, but she didn't even do that or that or that. I'm like, let's just make it easy for both of us. This is what I need done. Go.
That's awesome. It's having those simple tricks that people don't even think of. And I know there's a lot of people, and I was like that before too, is I didn't have someone coming to clean my house. I was always just doing it. But once I gave myself permission to have someone come in to clean my house, it was amazing. I mean, you go into, I always went, one of those ones that did a little bit of tidy before, but it allowed that to just be a smooth flow. And then afterwards it was like, oh my gosh, I didn't have to scrub a darn thing. And I think we get so used to doing it all ourselves that it is hard until you actually allow yourself and give yourself permission. I've heard you use that a couple of times, giving yourself permission to do things a little differently than you've done in the past. And that's powerful. So do you find that women have a hard time giving themselves permission to let go? How do they actually start to embrace giving themselves permission to change things in their life? Because I find most women, it's hard to give up things and to give themselves permission to change their habit. So how is it that you approach them to be able to get them? Is it smaller steps first before they get into the bigger steps and they start to recognize that? What are some of the techniques that you use?
Yeah, always. That permission piece is huge. And I also find that unworthiness is huge as well. And in our societies, I think I mentioned it before, but our productivity is often tied to our worthiness, or our worthiness is tied to our productivity, I should say. So giving ourselves permission to be still, to do things that make us feel good, and just remind it, like that constant reminder, like when I feel good, everything else around me works well. My business works well. My kids are in a good state. My partner's in a good state. Like, it is worth me being happy and me being joyful and me being able to thrive. Like, that is the winning tickets. So how can I prioritize myself? So I teach moon phase planning.
Okay.
And it just means that during different phases of the moon, you do different activities. But the most important part, the reason I bring it up, is that at least at the new moon, so at least once a month, that is when we do something for ourselves. And it doesn't have to be loud or expensive. It could just be, tonight, I'm just going to lie down and listen to a guided meditation. Or you could go to the spa. You could go and get a massage. It could be, something. And also giving yourself permission during that dark moon, new moon phase to do less. So don't prioritize meetings. Don't prioritize other people. Like, really just spend at least that phase, or at least parts of that phase, doing things that really light you up. Because usually we're kind of in that full moon phase 24/7, 365 days a year. We're just going, going, going. And then we were like, why are we so tired? But we don't actually value that part where we get to rest. And, if you think about it like the seasons, we don't really value that winter season. We don't really honor it. And then we just expect ourselves to be these machines that can keep going, but we really can't. We are human. And we've got all of these all this technology and all of these devices, but at the core of it, we are still cave people. So yeah, just really giving ourselves that permission. But it is, as you say, it's those tiny steps. And it's about, you get to the point where you start recognizing where you're not honoring yourself and you're not giving yourself permission, and you recognize it, and then you just pull yourself back on the path, and you just remind yourself every single time, I'm worth it. This benefits everyone. Self-care is a business strategy, like all of those little reminders. But there's a lot of conditioning that we have to undo. And I'm still not perfect at it by any means, but I can at least recognize and get myself back on that track. So a couple of months ago, I think it was, I was trying to read a novel on the weekend, just a rom-com. I love my rom-coms. And my brain was like, oh my God, you got to turn on your computer. You've got to do something. This is not okay. Yeah. And I was like, damn it, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to enjoy my book if it's the last thing I do. But I really had to fight myself on it, because my brain just wanted me to get up and feel productive. But my body didn't want to at all. So the novel won, the good side won. Yeah. But yeah, it's not a quick fix. It's not just a one and done.
Well, it is a rejig of all of your habits that you've been so conditioned to doing for your whole life. So whether you were that way when you were younger, before you got married and had kids, but once you get married and have kids, there's a lot of patterns that show up that you repeat over and over and over again just to have your day flow. But now to be able to interrupt that and say, okay, I need to be able to pay attention to the moon phases and just give myself permission to relax during that time, and to give myself permission and to understand that I need my own care before I can care anybody else. And we've heard that concept, but we don't necessarily live it. And we've all heard, you got to take care of yourself first. But I tell you, if that kid's not doing too well, we're going to be paying all of our attention to the child and forgetting about ourselves. And so there's all sorts of different things that we've been conditioned to as women, especially, and I know men have as well, but as women, there's a lot of hats that we wear, and that conditioning can go quite deep. So I'm really excited about the different options that you're offering to your clients to help them to break free from those patterns and to recognize when they're in that pattern and that they're not feeling like they're in that flow, because the flow is so powerful when you're in it, and when you're in it. But when you start to do that, I'll just call it the push as opposed to the flow, it makes such a difference in your productivity, your success, your your thought patterns, your mood, and everything else is affected by that.
Yeah, and we can still work hard, but we just don't have to push. Like if we're working hard because we're in flow, as you say, like like you said, when when your husband goes away and you can work, like if that feels good, I do that all the time. Like I can work for hours on end. I can be a complete machine, but it's not me pushing. It's me just flowing because it's all just coming to me and I have the space to do it. But yeah, if everything feels hard and heavy and you feel resentful, or if you're trying to control things that you really don't need to control, that's always a really good signal. Like a lot of my clients do that. They're like, oh, even just things that are so crazy from the outside, but from the inside seem really, really important when you're the one in it. You're just trying to control everyone because if you do that, then everything will work. But really, there is no control, right? And so we have to give ourselves permission to not be in charge of everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And not take on that responsibility for everybody. And oftentimes we even do that with our spouse. We try to tell them what they need to do and when they need to do it and how they need to do it, everything else. And they're typically grown people, so we can expect that they would take on some of those responsibilities, and we don't have to tell them all of that. But I know it's easy to fall into that pattern as well with our spouse, and they just say, okay, what do you want me to do next?
Yeah. And we don't want to be mothering our spouses, right? Like we didn't sign up to be their mothers.
Yeah.
So let's give them the opportunity to actually shine. And if that, I'm a huge fan of a standard operating procedure. Like I said, like if you need something done a specific way or in a specific order, it's a little more challenging with grown spouses. That's true. But at least they've got something to jump off of, right? As a starting point. But then also just expecting that done is better than perfect. So relax.
Sleep on the table, people getting fed, that's all that matters.
Exactly. And if the washing isn't folded exactly the same way that you would normally do it, well, honestly, who cares? Like, focus on the most important things. That's really the message here. Focus on the high impact things that are going to help you feel like you're thriving.
I love that. So when we're talking about all of these opportunities, what is it that you're able to offer to your client? Because I know that, people might be listening to this right now and saying, oh my gosh, I need to talk to Michal. So how can they reach out to you, and what are some of the things that you're able to offer to your clients?
Yeah, so I do one-on-one coaching, so it really goes in whichever direction we need to go. So I have a framework, but I mean, you'll know from doing coaching, like oftentimes we run up against limiting beliefs, self-concept, money, all the money mindset and all the money stories that we all have. And so it goes where it needs to go. But people come to me for business, but it's so much personal stuff as well, right? I mean, you know that. It's never just business because we are women and we have so much going on. And so we just figure out across home and business, like what doesn't need to be done and how do we decondition from that and how do we let that go? How can we delegate? What things could be automated? Because a lot of the stuff that we do, maybe we don't need to do it. Like there's so many different systems out there that can help with productivity and workflow and sending emails and contracts and whatnot that we don't need to be doing that through email. And in fact, that's probably not the best place for it because conversations get lost, people get confused, it's hard to keep track. So we really just look across life and business. What can we do so that you're not doing everything? How can we elevate your self-concept so you don't feel like you have to do everything, and so that you can, maybe it's charging more, maybe you bringing in more money and elevating your self-concept is going to solve a whole bunch of problems and a whole bunch of things that you think you need to do. So it's one-on-one coaching, and it really just depends on my client, what she needs and how we can help.
I love that it's customized for the individual, because everybody does have different needs and different areas that they're already excelling in and others that they really need that support to figure out those missing pieces. So that's fabulous. So now I really want to thank you for joining us today, but is there anything that we have as like a gift for people that they can learn how to contact with you? I know we'll put everything in the show notes, but is there something that you might have that you wanted to share with them?
Yeah, well, I have a freebie and it's for household harmony. So it's how can I've got about 12 different life categories that you could delegate or automate for household, running your household nice and smoothly so that you're not getting home and doing that second shift. So there's 12 different categories on there, and I do not expect anybody to take them all and run with them, but it's ideas. And a lot of them you've just done automatically. Like we said, we were just conditioned to pick all this stuff up and just juggle it. So that is the freebie that people can access, and then from there they can jump into my world and they can come and have a chat. I know you'll be putting my website there probably as well, and my Instagram, so people can connect with me via those places as well.
Yeah. So if any of this resonated with you today, and I'm sure every woman that's listening to this will resonate with it, whether you're at a stay-at-home mom, whether you are working from home, whether you have your entrepreneurial business, whether you're in a corporate position, I think we could all really benefit from what Michal is actually sharing with us today. Because I know as a woman, and I've worked with a lot of different women, we all get overwhelmed. We all get lost in the doing as opposed to the being. And we need to be in our being to be able to serve others in a way. And serving others is our family as well, not just our business. So I really appreciate your insights today. It's been really fun to be able to have this open conversation for women because it is a big piece of the puzzle. Like, simplify and strategize on what we can do to really take care of ourselves first and our business success and our family success, the better. Because I think there's a lot of people out there that are feeling so overwhelmed today. So it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here today. And thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Sally. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.